Yeah, thank you. Let me just start out with a couple quick comments, remarks. I'm going to talk to you about who we are, what we do. And it's stuff you know, it's stuff I know, but as Marines, we love to preach to the choir. So I'm going to do a little bit of that. And this is family. So at the end, what I really want to know, because I know you're short on time. I know time's one thing that when you're in the fight, when you're training for the fight, when you're going back and forth to and from the fight, you don't have a lot of time. And you've given me some of your time, and I'm very grateful for it, so I don't want to waste it. So what I would tell you is while I'm talking, I want to know what you want to know from me. So be thinking of those questions, something you want to pick my brain about, because I really want to know how I can help you. As the colonel said, I've been around this battalion for a while. I know what it's like to put a Sable round through a tank turret, Iraqi tank turret, at over a mile away. Hoorah? All right, that motivates me. I tell you, once you've got that first tank kill, you spend the rest of your life trying to get another one. So that's what kept me going back and back and back. I've done that. I fought on city streets in the counterinsurgency. I fought streets so narrow that I couldn't traverse my turret, and I was engaging enemy with pistols from my turret. I fought on city streets where people have asked for humanitarian aid, and I've given all I could give in the manner of first aid until I couldn't give no more. So I think I've seen this conflict from one extreme to the other. And anything you want to know about it, I'm going to tell you it's a free fire zone. I was a gunny. I was a career Marine. So I'll tell you, if you can offend me by one of your questions, you're pretty good. I have to do a lube order on my eye daily because the tear duct doesn't work. I don't say it's from the shrapnel. I say it's from being in the Marine Corps so long. So if you can offend me, you're pretty darn good. And also, don't be short on the motivation because I remember first tanks being a motivated crowd, so feel free to be as motivated as you want in this room. Hoorah? All right. Now, I'm going to start out with why do we have a Marine Corps? Why are we here? What does our Marine Corps exist for? Is it for college benefits? Is it for to look good on posters? Is it good, to have parades? Why do we have a Marine Corps? And if you don't know the answer to that, I'm going to tell you, and I'm pretty sure everybody in this room knows it. We're here to win our nation's battles. To win our nation's battles. And right now, you're very much involved with that. Because as we've seen over the recent past, that's where the Marine Corps goes. Our nation looks at where's the fight, where's somewhere that's critical mass, that's where the Marine Corps goes. That's where you go. That's where the tanks go. So if you don't realize that your number one function, the whole reason you are in this room, the whole reason you're wearing that Marine Corps green is to win our nation's battles, you need to realize something. That's what we're here for. So how do we do that? What makes a Marine? Who are we? How do we do this? Is it the uniform? Is it the gear? Because we got the same tanks they got. We got the same rifles they got. And as of lately, they've been copying us on the uniform. So we even got the same uniform those other services got. So it's not that. And I'll go back to when I was a boot. When I was new in the battalion, one of my NCOs, he pulled me aside, and he said, Pop, he said, here's what being a Marine is all about. Here's what you want to be. Anybody can sit here in a battalion classroom. He didn't use a battalion classroom as an example, but he said anybody can sit out here in the middle of the sunshine and hoorah, and act motivated, and do all the right things out here under the spotlights and where it's easy. That's easy to do. But the real Marine is that Marine who at 04 in the morning, when it's cold, tired, wet, raining, been up for days, that Marine who's still manning that cupola, who's still on that wall, who's still manning that rifle, still manning that position, and doing it. And that's the 04 Marine. That's who you want to be. And that really impacted me. I said, wow, that's it. The 04 Marine, that's who I'm going to be. And that's the hard road. Because the 04 Marine never gets no credit. And a lot of times he's going to see that sunshiny, that poster guy getting all the credit. But the 04 Marine, that's the real guy. That someday, when your Marine Corps time is over, you're going to look back and you're going to say, was I a 04 Marine? Was I one of the guys who made the Marine Corps, made it what it is? I contributed to being what the Marine Corps is, what the legend is, or was I a strap hanger? And only you will know the answer to that question. And I'll tell you this from combat, we'll talk a lot about that later. But when you go to combat, which is the ultimate extension of what you do, you'll judge yourself as a man for the rest of your life based on how you do there. So there's times when you're cold, when you're tired, when you're wet or hot, mostly in this new theater, when you're uncomfortable, when you're miserable. Think of that 04 Marine. Think of that. That's who you want to be. Now what else makes us who we are? Those core values, character. Character is the hallmark of who we are. Courage, honor, commitment. Courage. I just tell you, one of the best examples of it I can think of is when I got hit. I could have mentioned that I did get hit. I took a punch. I got hit by a rocket-propelled grenade in the head. And God blessed me with a hard head, so I'm still here today. But when I was hit, I was blinded in both eyes. I was manning the cupola of my tank. I was hit by it was a multiple rocket attack on me. It blew me completely out of my crew position across the turret. I ended up over by the TNB. Blinded instantly in both eyes, deafened in both ears. My helmet was in numerous pieces. I reached up, I felt my head, and I was bleeding pretty good out of numerous holes in my head and my neck. So I knew things were not so good right there. Now imagine yourself, you're my crew. You just seen the gunner just get blown out of that hatch, just get blown across the turret. You're in the middle of the street. We were in the street so tight I couldn't traverse the turret. It was a fight with just machine guns, rifles, and pistols from the top. I reached over because one of the things we know as Marines, we know that once you've been hit, you got to get up. You got to get up. And luckily I was still conscious. I got up, but I couldn't see nothing. The tank had stopped, and I'd always taught my crewmen, if you get hit, what do you got to do? You got to move. The enemy hit you once, he's going to hit you again if you don't move. So I had to get this tank moving. But I couldn't see. I couldn't direct the tank. I couldn't do anything. So I reached over and I grabbed my gunner. Now imagine him. He just seen his tank commander get blown out of that hatch. There's not a nice not a nice place to be in town here in Fallujah. Top of the turret's on fire. He's already moving. I'm telling him, Chambers, you got to get the tank moving. And I was a little concerned for myself. I'm telling him, you got to get a medevac going for me too. But I said, Chambers, you got to get the tank moving. And he's already moving. He's already climbing up into that cupola, that same one I'd just been blown out of. Unhesitating. Physical courage. My loader, Lance Corporal Hernandez. It's funny because when I got back home stateside, I started to try and reconstruct this whole event. And the one piece of the event that I could never remember was, where was Hernandez? Why don't I remember what Hernandez was doing? And I was to find out later what Hernandez was doing, because Hernandez never came down to where I was at, because I was down inside the turret by this point. Hernandez stayed up top and manned his machine gun as we were still in the middle of a fight. He continued to fight on in that turret. He continued to engage with that Loader's 240, which some of us know ain't the best weapon in the world to be in the fight with, but he stayed up there. He continued to engage the enemy. His right arm was riddled with shrapnel, bleeding like a pig, still in the fight. That's courage. I got to the medevac site. This is probably about my first real clear memory beyond that. The corpsmen are working on me. And I start feeling all this stuff being piled on me. I said, what are you doing? They said, it'll be a mortar attack, Gunny. This is body armor. And I put it back together later. What they were doing was they were taking their own body armor off and piling it on top of me, risking their own lives to save mine. That's courage. Physical courage. Moral courage. We know about that. We're going to talk a lot more about those away from the battlefield things too, because guess what? What you do here, what you do everywhere, you're Marine 24/7. What you're doing everywhere, you're training for combat, whether you realize it or not. If you don't have the moral courage when you're out there on liberty to tell one of your fellow Marines that he's doing something wrong, or to correct him, or to do that tanker and overwatch, to look out for your buddy, if you don't have the courage to do it there, how in the heck are you ever going to have it on a battlefield? So everything you do is training. And we're going to talk a little more about training later, because I love training. That's one of my things. Honor. Honor. I tell you, a lot of people ask me. I go around various places and talk about the war, talk about first tanks, talk about Marine Corps. And one of the things I am most proud of is the mission you are in right now. Marines, you've had a part in freeing 25 million people. And you are over in the fight to maintain their freedom. That's what Marines do. That's honor. I can't think of a better example of that than you putting all your lives on hold to go defend another man's freedom, just for the sake that every man should be afforded the opportunity to live a free life. And that's what Marines do. We defend the weaker people. I can't think of a better mission in my life. Commitment. I go back to when I was wounded. I was in Bethesda. I was being transported home. And I tell you, that medevac process moves pretty quick. I got to Germany. Chaplain says, Gunny, would you like to call home? I said, I sure would. I got on the phone. I spoke to my wife. She says, oh, my God, are you all right? I heard you lost your right eye. And I reached up and I felt a sewed up socket where my eye used to be. I said, I guess I did, so it moves pretty quick. So I end up in Bethesda. In Bethesda, you get lots of visitors because that's pretty close to the flagpole. So in my room, a Marine comes walking in. I was still completely blind. And my roommate there, he was completely deaf. So we had, not completely, we had a little bit of hearing, but we were really crappy roommates. I can't see and he can't hear. So I said, this guy don't ever answer me. What's going on here? That's right, you can laugh at it. They're not going to get any better, so you can laugh at those.